So, this is a little bit of a sort of a tricky topic, and I know because it's really sensitive. I know it's hard for me to hear growing up, and now that I am where I am, I can kind of look at this in a lot more of a healthy kind of way without being so bogged down about thinking about not being able to change people, especially because in my character, I always kind of grew up as somebody who wanted to like take care of people, save people, the archetype. Now, for me personally, I don't think that there's anything wrong with wanting to be somebody that wants to help people when you see them doing something that's destructive, but there comes a point where it is wrong only because you're doing yourself a disservice, and that's kind of where I'm battling with this. And that's where my issues really started, is when I started to put other people's well-being ahead of mine, and I still see so many people doing it. So that's what we're getting into. And if it's not you who's like this, it's probably somebody that you know. So watch this for them if it's not you. So we all know that people are attracted to broken people, especially when you're somebody who is broken on the inside, but you don't want to admit it. And that's the hard truth of it. I think that people who want to fix broken people have problems that they just don't want to fix themselves. Instead of wanting to fix yourself, you'd rather save somebody else, because in a way, it's easier to fix other people's problems, but that is where we're so wrong and we have it so twisted. What we have got to realize is it's impossible to fix somebody else. They have to actually want it in their own hearts. People can look at you and they can be inspired by you and they can be motivated to want to get their shit together by watching you and watching how well you're doing in your life, but that's not actually ultimately going to be what does it for them. Truly, I believe that people have to come to a place where they've truly hit like rock bottom and they're like, you know what?
I'm done.
I'm making the change, I'm making it for me, and I'm not making it for anybody else. Again, people could be motivated by you, but that is not really the likely cause. I feel like there has to be a lot of internal battles and internal struggles that people go through, that they need to decide that they've had enough and they're ready to pick themselves back up. Rock bottom is a hard place to be, but I believe like that is the starting of how people are able to pick themselves back up and do it relentlessly, no matter what gets in the way, no matter what obstacles there are. If they didn't have that internal dialogue in here first, it's just gonna, like, they can make the progress, but ultimately they're just gonna kind of fall back down. And then what do you, as their partner, do? You blame yourself. You wonder, why am I good enough for them to want to fix themselves for me, when it has nothing to do with you not being good enough? It's just they have not gotten there yet. And people might think that like, oh, I couldn't fix them, so they just might not love me like that. And that's not the case. It's just, we can love something, but we can still destroy it and self-sabotage it. And self-sabotaging is going to be the death of your relationship if that person didn't kind of come to that conclusion on their own. And especially when the relationship starts, it's easy to be anything. We're all going to put our best foot forward. We're going to show the best version of ourselves, including your partner. And when things kind of start to get sour, you don't want to unsee that version of them. It's like we cling on to that version of them and not realize like, hey, a lot of these bad things that are changing, I'm ignoring them. They might be red flags, they might be subtle, they might be obvious, but we see them. And that's the thing. Like, we see them, but we just kind of pretend not to, because we're like, no, but when I first met them, they were perfect. Like, they were so driven, they were so kind, they were so considerate to my feelings. But then when that starts to change, it's like, it gets to a point where we can't even deny it anymore. And even after we can't deny it anymore, we still want to fight for it because we still hold on to when things were a good time. I think another part of it too is like we want things to work so bad, especially when there's been a lot of history and things like that with that person, that you just ignore all the qualities that you're like seeing now that you don't like, new or repeating. You want to just keep fighting and trying to get them on their feet. You want to get them motivated, you want to get them inspired, but like, you're not God and you're not their mom. You have to know when to call it quits. And that is painful. I know for me, like when I met one of the people that I was seeing, in the beginning of our relationship, they were very, very, very intelligent. And I'm not saying that they're not intelligent, but they were very academically driven and they had like all these goals and things like that. But once the relationship started to progress, I started to see like complete and utter laziness and just a complete non-willingness to do anything for themselves. It's like they wanted me to hold their hand throughout all of their life. They wanted me to kind of like make all these major decisions. And for me, I am just like not that person. Like I have a very like go with the flow type of personality. Like I'm a very like free spirit type of person. So when somebody puts that sort of responsibility on me when already doing it for myself is hard enough work, and I never really relied on anybody to pick my life back up. I was like, I gotta do everything myself. When somebody then passes that responsibility onto you to do it for them, you're like, what do you want from me? Like, I cannot manage your drama on top of mine. All this that I'm talking about is you can't lie to yourself. You gotta be super honest with yourself and you gotta be super brutal about it too. You need to look at your situation, your relationship, or whatever, and you have to think, are there things that I see in this person that I really genuinely wish I could change? If the answer is yes, ask yourself, do I actually see those things changing? Do I really want to fight this uphill battle of trying and begging and pleading and doing whatever I can to get this person to make those changes for me? Is that going to be satisfying? I promise you, it's not going to be that satisfying if they didn't make that call themselves, because you don't want to feel like you're suffocating somebody. You're not supposed to be on somebody's back like that. That just gets overbearing, and really it just kind of reeks of desperation in a way, because it's like you can't just go find something better somewhere else. You have to sit there and you have to keep trying to fight for it in this one person, even if those traits are just horrible. It's like, what are you putting up with? You know yourself better than anybody else. You know what you're willing to tolerate, and you know what is your own ideal situation. And you are in a position where somebody is not ideal for you, they're not making you happy, yet you're allowing them to take up all this time from you when you could be using that to find somebody who might be a better choice for you, or to just be by yourself and enjoy your own company and just increase the beauty in your own life in your own way. You can enjoy your own time. The hardest question is to ask yourself, do you not love yourself enough to acknowledge that I deserve better and I can go find better? This person that I'm dealing with, who's exhibiting a bunch of red flags, who's exhibiting a bunch of problems that are just not going to work for me, why do I love them more than I love myself? Why do I put myself down in a way where I don't deserve the chance to go find something that's gonna work for me? I understand. It's very scary to start over, but people need to stop making being single the worst thing to ever happen to somebody. Being single is not a curse. It's actually a really good thing. You get to be with yourself. You get to fall in love with yourself. You get to enjoy all your hobbies and just be who you are and not have to worry about making somebody else happy. It's a sacred time, truly. Your comfort level in a unstable relationship should never be your priority. It should never be fear that holds you back from exploring new options, from seeing what else is out there, because there's billions of people on the planet. There's no way you mean to tell me that nobody is going to make you happy as this person that's not unwilling to progress in your life with you. That's better for you. If you genuinely feel like you're giving the relationship your all, you're constantly growing to better yourself for yourself and your partner, but they're not maintaining that, you're shooting yourself in the foot. At that point, you're your worst enemy, even more so than your partner, who is bringing nothing but baggage into the picture. And I don't mean to call people's problems baggage, but it does become kind of baggagey feeling when it's just weighing you down and they're just pulling you down in their own slump and they're just unwilling to change and fix things. It's selfish too. It is selfish when people are not willing to fix themselves and work on themselves, but they want to stay in a relationship, but they're poisoning the relationship. Not even like, oh yeah, being in a relationship does help me grow. It does make me become a better person. If that's the case, like, okay, I'm not saying that people should use a relationship to better themselves, because that's not really fair to the partner. We think, like, when we're begging and pleading our partners to get it together, to make these changes for the better, we think we're helping them.
We're not.
We're just being naggy, and no one likes that. They don't like that, and you don't like that, because you don't want to be their mommy, they don't want you to be their mommy, or sometimes they do, but you don't want to be their mommy, trust me. You don't want to be somebody's rock. You don't want to be the only reason why somebody is sane. They've got to get it together for themselves, because if you walk out of that picture, it's not your fault what happens next. But I get it. Sometimes this stuff is easier said than done. Sometimes people are not ready to leave just right then and there. So I would say set a time limit. Pick maybe 6 months. And don't nag your partner for shit, okay? If you've already communicated what your expectations are out of them, first things first, you've got to communicate your expectations with them. People can't change and know what it is that you want out of them if you don't communicate those things. So first, after you've communicated it, just sit back and watch. Don't nag them. Don't remind them. Don't say anything. Just watch what they do. See how they are when you're not complaining and nagging. Give them a chance to either prove you right or wrong, because if they prove you right in terms of they don't change, then you know what you need to do. You know what you need to do, and if you stretch it beyond that, then you were just actively choosing to ignore every single problem, and you're just dragging it out at that point, and you're inevitably heading towards a really, really negative downfall. In that time, kind of keep talking about the things that you're doing in your life in an excited kind of way, and just see how they react. Are they excited for you? Are they not? Are they kind of trying to bring it down because they want you on their level? If they do things like that, then that is not your person. Not your person. Because a person can be uninspired and unmotivated and unwilling to do anything for their life, but if they want that same kind of energy for you, then they're just trying to also sabotage your life. And that is a no-no, no matter what. There's no circumstance that's acceptable where your partner should ever not want what is absolutely best for you. They might play dumb, they might play innocent, but they know. Deep down, they know if you deserve better. They know that they are not the best you can do. And that's kind of a scary thought when you think about it, because you're like, if you know that I deserve better, why aren't you giving me better? But it's because a lot of times people are scared to give you better. So what do? Either they'll shut you off, or they'll cling on to you, because if they cling on to you, then they know that you're not going to go out there seeking better. Don't ever make the mistake of thinking that people are really dumb or really clueless or really oblivious. People know what they're doing. They're perfectly aware of it. And I'm not saying it's the most calculated thing all the time, but they're definitely subconsciously doing things. They're definitely subconsciously acting in a way where they think that it's going to keep you there. And a lot of times being more avoidant does work, because what happens if somebody starts to pull away, people start to kind of try to latch back on to make that relationship stay where it's at. And it works. So that is a lot of times why people do it. They know what they're doing. They're playing their cards, and they know that you deserve better, but they don't want you getting better, because it makes them feel good to know that you're still choosing them, even if you're too good for them. And you are. And I mean that very deeply. I mean that very truly. If you are actively giving your 110, you're too good for that person who's not doing it back for you. And you deserve somebody that's gonna also give you 110. I don't know why people are okay with settling for non-stop red flags and allowing themselves to get dragged through the mud. It's like, are you not tired? Are we not tired? I'm tired. I've not even gone through it like that many times, and I'm tired. Like, I approach everything so cautiously now, because I just don't have it in me to deal with somebody that's going to try to waste my time. We need to treat ourselves like that. Like, we're worthy of the best. You shouldn't have to fight tooth and nail to get something to work. People can be really wicked, and that was a really hard lesson for me to learn, but people are going to do whatever they can to just kind of sap everything out of you and take all that you're willing to give without giving anything to you in return. And that is how hurt people end up being the ones who try to hurt other people. Please don't let that happen to you. Please walk away from a red flaggy, messy, relationship, situationship, whatever, before you end up becoming that person, because it's very, very possible. A lot of the times too, when these things come crashing down, when people start like retelling the story and things like that, people are just like, I was blindsided, and it's like, no, you weren't. The signs were right here. You're choosing not to look at them. So stop choosing to be blind for the sake of being in a relationship or comfortable. That miserableness, that misery that you're in is not comfortable. That should not be your level of comfort. It should not be what you strive for. Once again, if you saw your friend or your family member in your own relationship, how would you feel about it? If you could take yourself out of your own relationship, what would you say about your relationship? And that, whatever you would say to somebody else, is exactly what you should be saying to yourself. Because what you say to somebody else is going to be kind of with less emotion. It's going to be for what it is. You're seeing that relationship, you're seeing all the problems for exactly what they are, and you're saying, is that worth it? Yes or no. And if when it's your own, everything is,
yes, it's worth it because I just love them so much.
But when it's not your own, you take that love away from it. And I think that's a really important thing to be able to do when things are not good, of course. You need to be able to look at a relationship very logically and be like, is this actually benefiting me, or is this taking away from me? And again, I'm not saying this in a way it's like, as like the second you see a red flag, you just like dip. Because I do understand, like, a lot of people, we have that problem nowadays where people are actually not willing to fight for their relationships at all. And at the sign of the first obstacle, people are jumping ship. And I'm not saying to do that, but I'm just saying to be conscious of how many red flags or toxic behaviors that you're willing to let slide. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that. Let me know what you guys think. Did I miss anything? Is there anything that you want to add? And yeah, I hope this helps somebody. Have a great rest of your night or day, wherever you are, whenever you're watching this. I'll see you in my next one.